AITA for not wanting my ex, who doesn't have good relationships with her own parents, to still talk to my mom. Hi, Reddit. So, after about 2 years of dating, I'm her first boyfriend, and living together for part of that time, my girlfriend broke up with me. It was mostly amicable, but she eventually decided we needed to go no contact because we were still falling back into old habits. We haven't spoken for about 2 months. I recently found out she still talks to my mom. My ex's dad kicked her out when she was 15 and, I think, was a bit abusive, and her mom and her don't have a good relationship either. Her stepfather was peeping Tomming her, taking photos since she was 15 and came to live with them full-time, and her mom fight a lot about that as her mom is still married to the stepfather. My ex and my parents got along well during our relationship, and she was especially close to my mom. My parents are divorced. She even got a key to my mom's house for cat sitting. My mom is really nice and also a counselor, and she encouraged my ex to go back to college after she dropped out, went to see plays and whatever else my ex was in, invited her on our family vacations and to our Thanksgiving plus Christmas parties. At least while we were a couple, my mom would refer to her as her third child. Now, I found out they still talk from time to time, mostly over Facebook. My aunt even tagged my ex in a mean post-breakup. This makes me uncomfortable because my ex doesn't even talk to me, and because I feel like my family still wants me to get back together with my ex even though I know, through my mom, that my ex is seeing other people, moving out of state. I don't know that my ex is still talking to her as a way to get to me, but it is getting to me. I'm not in a new relationship yet, but I imagine my future girlfriends becoming uncomfortable with this, too. I mentioned to my mom I felt weird about it, and she made me feel pretty bad because my ex has no other parental roles and has struggled a lot. She also says that they don't talk about me at all and that it's not about me, my ex just needs a family. AITA, if I don't want my ex to find family in my family? TL, Doctor, ex doesn't talk to me, but still treats my mom like her adoptive parent as she has bad relationships with her own parents. Mom claims they don't discuss me but it makes me uncomfortable nonetheless. AITA, if I insist on demanding this friendship so I can move on, even though admittedly my mom has been somewhat of a mentor to my ex-girlfriend? Nah, it's understandably a weird feeling on your part, but assuming you didn't end on bad terms, cheating, etc. and they not talking frequently, it would seem your mom and your ex could continue talking without you knowing it. Absolutely, you're not an ass for being human and feeling that way, but neither is your mother or ex for keeping up their acquaintance. I can see where you say it might be odd for a new girlfriend, but wonder how much that would actually come into play since you've said their communication hasn't affected you, your life in any way thus far. You may be stressing about a non-issue there. Nah. I think it is reasonable for you to feel weird that your ex is in contact with your mom. But as long as your mom isn't trying to forcibly involve you in that contact or push you guys back together without your consent, your mom and your ex have the right to keep in touch. My mom is still friends with all of my exes. One of my cousin's ex-husbands still comes to family reunions. Unless you ended on toxic terms, I don't see why one relationship has to end just because another one did. And I understand why this makes it more difficult for you to move on, and why you'd have those feelings. At the same time though, I also think your ex deserves to keep her relationships with people she's close to. Breakups are messy, and usually there are plenty of feelings people need to work through. It'll get better in time. Perhaps you could ask your family to not tell you things like that she's dating or moving. It's really understandable that you need some time where you just don't hear about her. Ended amicably, more or less. She initiated the breakup, but I agreed. She can't or is unwilling to do penetrative sex, so that was a problem for me, and she said she wanted to work on herself, independent of me, since she basically hasn't been single since high school. She also told me she thought I treated her a bit like a child, which I don't think I did, but she is 2 years younger, more chaotic than I did do things, like try to make sure she ate and slept. Anyway, we did a talk about what went wrong but agreed most things went fine, and we still respected each other. We tried to do the friends thing but ended up hooking up, in other ways, again, so she said she needed to go no contact with me in order to be able to move on. For insisting they end things. You're not an asshole for being hurt by it, but in my opinion, if they are being civil and not shoving it down your throat, let it happen. I think it's reasonable to ask that your mom doesn't bring it up to you, and I definitely think it's reasonable to ask your aunt, other families not to tag her and stuff, or to exclude you from seeing those posts, because it hurts you to see her name pop up. But particularly because her parents suck and it sounds like you're both decent people and it ended well, I say don't take that away from her. Life is hard and good people help. It's bad enough to go through a breakup, but imagine if you lost all your family too? It sounds like your family is her only family. My in-laws still consider my wife's sex their son. He didn't have parents, literally was abandoned in the woods with a homeless camp at age 10, and the in-laws were his first and only family. I don't mind at all, the wife and I joke that he's our brother. It's not quite the same situation, but you gotta have compassion for people, even if it's a little hard or awkward, you know? We all need a family. Maybe you and the ex can be friends someday. Cheers. My mother still talks to an ex-BF from my freshman year of high school from time to time and does not bother me none. I am not married with 2 children. The only thing I ask of her is not to mention him to me. I do not care what he is doing with his life because it does not affect mine. I get why you feel a little weird about it, but it's totally fine to stay friends with an ex's family after a breakup. From your post, it sounds like the breakup was very recent and the relationship your mom and ex have is super casual. Is an occasional comment on Facebook even considered a relationship? I think you may still be upset by the breakup. This is making you feel that you won't be able to move on. I really don't think that is the case. I actually am super close with my ex-boyfriend's mom, high school sweethearts, dated for 4 years. As we live in the same small town, I see her often and our parents are still close friends. I will admit that people do sometimes find this a bit strange. But if a future girl doesn't want to date you, for this reason, she isn't worth it anyway. As long as you don't have any animosity towards the ex, I think what's going on is fine. It is nearing not territory for you to forbid them from having any type of relationship.
Thank you all. If story will have update, will post here. Do comment about the story, like and subscribe for upcoming stories.